Good evening, everyone. I'm Molly the Kush RN, and you've reached Conversations with Kush podcast. Tonight, I have three incredible guests with me that are here to talk about a special new group that we have here in Minnesota supporting veterans. It is called Minnesota Veterans for Cannabis. I would like to welcome, please, John Jones, who is the founder of that organization, Matt Smith, who is their director of outreach, and my good friend Alicia Shaw, who is a cannabis nurse from Midwest Cannabis Professionals. So thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you for having us.
John, I'd like to start with you.
Sure.
So tell me about this brainchild of yours, Minnesota Veterans for Cannabis. How did this get started?
Sure. Yeah. Well, a few years back when before legalization hit, uh, the organization was actually founded by myself and Jeremy Sankey.
Okay.
He's moved on to some better things, so um, bless him. But it started as a political, uh, political tool for cannabis legalization and medical cannabis reform. And now that that's been kind of going through the press, and we're trying to refocus and move around a little bit more.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your mission.
Yeah, our main mission right now is pretty much education,
Okay.
in different various degrees. Alicia's been key in doing that. She's put together some great stuff. I'm working on a project that would be like a growing type guide as well. Um, that's pretty much our main mission at the moment.
Okay. How long have you been active?
Oh gosh, I think we started in, let's see, 2016, 2015, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And
And
yeah, go ahead.
and did you get it going because you were accessing cannabis and really wanted to kind of spread the word as to like how it had helped you?
Yeah, so I live way out outside the metro area, and there's not a lot of outreach out here. There's not a lot of places to turn, and I went through my own situation with medications through the VA, and ended up choosing cannabis over those, um, just for a better health plan.
Sure.
Um, so and then dealing with the vets out here, there's a lot out here that still, and that's kind of what the education push is for, but that's kind of how it all got started, was just trying to connect those people with what the resources were up there and try to bridge that gap.
Okay.
Um, you, you know,
Were people specifically saying that they were interested in cannabis? Did they know that you were accessing it and see a change or?
yeah. So what I found, at first I've really felt that I was kind of on my own, by myself.
Mhm.
But out here, I'm not sure. I've never lived in the metro area, but up
Mhm.
there, but out here, everybody's pretty tight-lipped about their cannabis use. It's
Yeah.
kind of either way. But I was always very vocal about my cannabis use. It
Okay.
was a real challenge just to leave those medications behind and transfer over to the cannabis. So I was
Sure.
real vocal, and then being active politically. Um, you show up in some newspapers, so people knew who I was and knew that I consumed. So
Okay.
I started meeting a lot of older vets, Vietnam vets, a couple of World War II vets that yeah, they'd been consuming cannabis too. They just don't tell nobody and kind of
Wow.
hid it in the shadow.
Sure.
So yeah, there was people reaching out and asking questions, and as of today, there's still people reaching out here asking, how do I do this? How do I get, connected with the program? How do I, different things. So they're still out here.
I'm really glad to hear that. I'm really glad to know that people are kind of opening up their minds to there being an alternative to the things that they have been using that maybe necessarily haven't been working. Um, so, what does cannabis do for you? We've talked a
Yeah.
lot to Matt about what it's done for him, and we are gonna hear from him too in a minute.
Good. Yeah. I would imagine it's pretty much the same answer. Uh, I've been diagnosed with severe PTSD, so anxiety for one, it keeps me calm. I also use it for chronic pain. It's allowed me to be a lot more involved in things and uh, going from a isolation type environment to being involved with some of the local programs here in my town and with you and with the cannabis, even going to the Capitol. It's allowed me to do a lot more things.
I'm glad to hear that you have that.
Yeah, thank you.
Matt, it's been a while since we checked in. How are
Yes,
things
Molly.
how are things going?
Very well, thank you.
Good. I'm glad to see you getting involved with this program. It was really one of the things that you had spoken passionately about on my show when we met earlier. And I applaud you. I love this. I think this is really a great outlet, and it's very much needed, as John spoke to already. So, tell me what a
Absolutely.
outreach. Tell me what an outreach director does. How do you help people come to the group, and what can they expect when they do come?
Well, basically, it's pretty much what it is. It's outreach. I fish around with individuals or organizations. Either the individuals need to be connected to uh, Alicia, if they need cannabis modulation type of questions, organizations that want to have a join a into a relationship with us so we can have a broader population, if you will, that we can reach. um, and I would also say introducing veterans to cannabis options, letting them know, like John and Alicia said earlier, telling them where good retailers are, because I mean, I think we'll all agree there's plenty of retailers out there, but
For
not
sure.
all of them are retailers that we would say are good enough to entrust, turning someone to.
Sure.
So
I love that you are really being intentional about vetting the retailers, and then also having that beautiful education component that Alicia can bring in to guide people down their journey, to help break those stigmas, to get out and talk about the different things that cannabis can help for. Because I think people always kind of, I don't want to say dumb it down, but they kind of simplify it down to pain, sleep, and anxiety. And it's like, okay, yes, those are byproducts of the larger things that you have going on in your body. So if there's something that it's not touching the condition that you have, like, let's look to see maybe if cannabis can help. So thank you for this work.
I think you bet. And I think I mean, we all know somebody who said, ooh, or somebody that introduced them to cannabis in whatever shape or form. And they said, I'll try this. And so they try it. And
Exactly.
well, I don't think it really worked. Well, it didn't work to its fullest extent for you because you weren't asked those screening questions to say which type and how much would be best for you. So they
Right.
rule it out right away, or they have a bad experience. That 10
Exactly.
years ago, that wasn't there. Now you've got that, so take full advantage of that.
Yeah. I really, what I envisioned, I guess, when you spoke about it on the show about, wanting to kind of be involved and get people together, is more just like a support group. I kind of envisioned, people coming together that had had a shared experience and now have another shared experience, right? That's maybe something a little bit more positive that they can all kind of like get around and really like push for and help each other through. So I hope that's part of what you guys will do. And I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I just think that would be a really beautiful thing. So, Alicia, let's talk about this education for this special population. tell me how you are framing this for people and how you're shaping up those resources. Is it really just word of mouth and kind of being on the scene? Are you getting together like a whole literature type thing? How's that working out?
So it's kind of a multifaceted approach. So since John had started kind of the momentum years back, and then we found each other, I don't know, probably just within the last I don't know, 4 or 5 months, I think, somewhere in that. Time has been flying by. But anyway, I think we all pretty much came together as far as, what is it that we can do, what's needed. And, I think when the three of us kept talking, we were discussing, as Matt kind of indicated, our own missteps, right? Like we thought the higher potency was going to cure most of us. If 5 was good, 30 was better, right? So I think we collectively knew those experiences for ourselves, and then knew those experiences for others, and thought, well, we obviously, it's not just us three. I mean, we're special, but we're not that special. So if we keep making those same mistakes, for some person that may make them just feel crappy for a day or two. For someone that could be pretty pivotal, someone that has kind of a pretty disastrous or, traumatic history, that could be life-changing, if they really had a bad experience that could last, easily a few days, if it really was that on board. So we initially thought, well, we'll need to start with our foundation of let's try and get out education. So we started our website, Minnesota Vets for Cannabis. So it's MNVets4can.com, and figure we are going to break that down and start plugging our resources on there. So we have a Cannabis 101 booklet on there, which walks through even just, so you're thinking about it, these are some of the things you could think about. This is what it's even like, what you should expect when you walk into your first dispensary. I mean, just so basic that I think we think as firsthand, like, well, yeah, of course that you do that. But for someone that's toying around with it, right, maybe that's half their fear. Well, I don't want to go in there not looking like I know what I'm doing or what I should expect, or just the fear factor to so many things. So we are starting to plug our website with a bunch of resources. So there's a couple downloadable things. I hope to have some colleagues have recorded YouTube videos even, and I know that anyone could search them, but I had made really concise YouTube videos on even how to roll a joint, how do you even pack a bowl, what should you look for, what is the very basics. And then we built a resources page that at this point is stacked. The first half of that page kind of just speaks you right in the face as far as, what are crisis resources? Like maybe cannabis is the white flag that brought you to the site, like, oh, I'll check this out, maybe, weed will fix me. Well, as we all know, cannabis isn't always a Band-Aid. It's not always for everyone. And it can be just a Band-Aid, like you commented, like what are our deeper issues? And so it is hotlines, warm lines, at numbers to call if you're in a rural area, numbers to call if you're a farmer experiencing mental health issues, and then broke it down further to vet-owned groups and endeavors. So you wouldn't even have to own a dispensary. It was, if you do own a dispensary, we would like to definitely have you as a trusted partner on there. So that way we have, as you said, we have vetted the vets, right? Like we felt that you're coming at it from a good place. We all, I think, at this table can agree that everyone has mortgage and rents to pay. We would like to see everyone eat, but eat safely, not just, I'm going to push out a crummy product that, may or may not help someone. I don't really care, but you paid me $40, so I'm out the door. So those things I think were really important to us as far as trying to get that done. And so hopefully we're just going to continually expand on that. So we've done a lot of work and a lot of outreach within those, thanks to Matt being in a lot of different places, especially veteran resources, and his every third Saturday, and reaching out to different groups that even cover first responders. I think no one here is going to say, oh, well, if you're not a vet, but you do other traumatic work, you got to go find your own group, right? Like we aren't here to help you. So ideally then, that's the goal that we have. Andy's like chasing a dog here. I apologize to everyone
You're
here
good.
around my feet. I'm so sorry. Anyway, so the goal is that we're going to continue to expand that. And that's where we're at. Dog in the jail here. We're going to continue to expand that as best we can. You know, we still constantly meet with people. I've found other people in the community that are even just willing to support gardening supplies, traumatic massage, just people that have even done motivational speaking, that have worked with people in prisons, you know, that feel they have something to offer. So I think the goal is to just really expand out a presence, right?
Okay.
Like there are other people that are out there to altruistic kind of help you. You know, it's not always just a profit involved.
I'm always shocked by the number of veterans that I encounter. I'm like, oh, you were in the services? Like,
Right.
I'm sometimes just taken aback, especially with the younger generation. Like, you know, I just don't think of them as veterans usually. I think of like my uncles and, you know, my grandpa and stuff like that. So, you know, there's these younger folks too that have had these experiences. And I just want to say I love and support that you are just gathering your community and really tapping into the community that's directly already in cannabis and just, you know, getting this outreach out to a broader scope of people. So I love that part. That's
And it's
awesome.
kind of been working like that, like a little kind of a, you know, spokes on a bike wheel. Like we had gone to another organization that we, you know, are pretty tight with, and they had invited us to one of the barbecues, and probably half the people there, I mean, they were all veterans, but half the people there were, we had our Minnesota Veterans for Cannabis shirts on, and they were like, yeah, I'm going to start a grow. Yep, I'm going to do this. I've been using it. It saved my life. I have to stay away from alcohol. That's poison. I mean, so I think people, the spokes are there, right? They just need a center hub, you know, and I think that's what John and Matt are absolutely so pivotal in, is that sure, I can educate people, but I've never been in a war. I've never, you know, held a gun in, you know, a fight or flight situation. And so I can't answer to that, right? I can answer on paper, but that sense of community building, like you said, I think is really, people want a place to belong where they can be accepted for all parts of them, which cannabis is not. Really, as Matt can speak to, John, like that's not an acceptable part in a lot of VA organizations and groups.
We talked a little bit about that, Matt, on the show when you were on earlier, just being able to like talk to your doctor about, you know, cannabis and, you know, letting them know like this is the thing that works for me. And you were fortunate enough to have someone that was supportive. But I wonder, John, for you, has that been a same experience? Or, you know, when you talk to other veterans, are they able to feel like they can talk to their provider about cannabis?
A little of both. I have veterans that refuse. I mean, you know, there's still fear. You know, they could lose benefits. They could do
Yeah.
a lot of things to a veteran over that, and they don't want to take those chances. But then I've met a few doctors that don't support it, but for the most do these days, or in the VA where I go, most you know, they have their protocols. They can't really um, uh, you know, obviously give it to you or prescribe it to you, but
Right.
they
Or
can they definitely.
administer, right? They can't administer in any of the facilities.
Right, right. They're supportive as much as they can be.
Yeah. So, I mean, we still have a lot of gains to make, right? Through
Yes.
legislation,
Mhm.
hopefully we can make some gains there. And then, you know, just through breaking down stigmas. Alicia, you alluded to earlier, you and Matt being at a place where you kind of you had an encounter. Tell me more about that. What happened? Matt, do you want to
We
go?
Matt can, I will frame it, and Matt can, he had the conversation.
Perfect.
We had the fortune of going to a farmer's market in Northeast Minneapolis locally just this afternoon. They were great about it. Didn't really ask any questions other than, you know, what are your websites? So I'm sure just to see that, you know, we were legitimate. We understood they knew we weren't selling products. We don't endorse or sell products either. I don't specifically, in the vets gives organizations, but we aren't endorsing specific products at this point. And so we
Okay.
just showed up with information and booklets and signs. And we had a gentleman from the very the very beginning of him walking in the farmers market enclosure was just like shaking his head at the signs, and he was pushing two small children. He was probably in his mid to late 70s. And my mom, who was also that same age, called him out on it, as he was walking by, and then just kind of pointed to Matt and said, well, here's a veteran. Matt jumped up out of his chair, and then there you go, Matt.
Yeah. What did you say to him, Matt?
Well, I listened to I listened to his position on the matter, and it was what all or many would probably agree is an old-fashioned outlook or perspective on cannabis. And and I told him, I said, we've learned a lot, since the Controlled Substances Act of 1970, where the government put the grip on everything. I said we just weren't ready yet to see what the advantages or what the goods could be coming out of it. And he said, well, he used to lock people up in jail for that, for crying out loud, all these crazy nut jobs. And I said, and I think that wasn't that is what we did at that point in time in the country. That's what the culture and the society thought was necessary. Well, we're at a point now where we're beyond that. We've learned, we've grown, we've advanced in medical sciences, I think. And if there's a lot of people, all practitioners that say that it can be beneficial, I think we owe it to certainly to other veterans. But anybody else that is suffering with pain and PTSD. And I told him, I said personally, it's done well for me. And he goes, oh, and then he kind of turned, he kind of changed his tune, and we got into some other discussions, and it seemed like, I think if he probably at that point when we first started talking wasn't as informed or hadn't been talking to somebody who had a good story about it.
Mm-hmm.
This maybe kind of reoriented his sight path a little bit better, and got him thinking, well, maybe that's not such a bad thing. And we wrapped up our conversation a few minutes later, with him saying, well, good luck. I hope that things work out for you with this and all that. And then it certainly was a 180 from what we had started. So awesome. There's no need to meet. All you can do is meet people with love, compassion, and concern, and hope that you can help them learn.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's it would be, to tell them how they can benefit from it is doing far more than trying to engage in a challenge of beliefs, because we know that doesn't work.
The two takeaways from what I want to reiterate, what I heard you say, Matt, is that I think the way to really start breaking those stigmas down and opening up those conversations are listening to a person's perspective on it, right? Trying to really piece out like, okay, well, what are they scared of? What do they not know, right? The second piece is telling your story, your personal story about how cannabis helped you. This is how we break or how we reach the hearts and minds of people about cannabis, and maybe open that up. And you know what? As Alicia spoke to, cannabis isn't for everybody, but it can help a lot of people with a lot of different things. And if it's an option, it should be presented to you, just like you said, Matt.
Yep.
So, well, and I think it helps to have in the back of your mind that the older generations don't they don't do as well with more recent changes, because that's not the way they were born and bred and raised, and those changes can be threatening to them. They think it may be politically based. The Democrats are throwing the country away, raising our taxes through the roof. That's what I hear constantly. And I say, well, that's in the voters' hands. They can choose, and all that stuff. So I think that's a big component in it. But it's just it's in phrasing it to try to get their minds to see what your point of view is. I think that helps open that up to a lot of older generation.
But you also came to him of two things that older generation would expect. A, you were a veteran, and B, you were a cop.
Yes.
Because I heard his tone kind of change when he had said, oh, we just arrest everybody. And you're like, actually, we haven't done that for quite some time. I was a cop, and I kind of saw the look on his face. So, I mean, you represent the two things he was always told to abide by, right? I mean, so I think when he hears you saying that as a like trusted position of authority, that changes the perspective versus
sure.
I'm 21 and just thought it'd be fun to do for the weekend, because he was threatened by that. He figured all the youngsters were going to be driving around. That was the one part I heard in the very beginning, is he thought all the youngsters were going to be driving around town high. And you said, dude, they already are. This isn't a new thing if they choose to.
Right.
I mean, so I think that made a tremendous difference.
Yeah.
Jen, let's tell us how the community, or any of you guys, please tell us how the community can support you and what you need from people. And then also just some final thoughts about your goals and missions that you hope to accomplish, like maybe some milestones you hope to reach this year, and then where the people can find you.
Sure. I'll just say that obviously our mission is to help and connect those veterans out there who aren't connected to these resources and networks, and educate as many people that like, just like Matt encountered today, to kind of help bridge that gap. I know in a lot of training, military training, it's you find a hole, you find a position, something that needs to be done, and you do it. And right now, at this point in time, I think that's, as far as cannabis goes, that's what needs to be done.
Agreed. Alicia?
Plan for the year. So as I mentioned earlier, we can be found Minnesota Veterans for Cannabis. So it's mnvets4can.com. And then we are planning hopefully to have some events, just quick meetups, just where vets can find us, just to start kind of gathering some people in the metro. I'm in talks with someone in Brainerd. Hopefully we can kind of nudge to start doing some barbecues if we can try and crank some out with what less rain days there are for the summer in some of the rural areas, to be able to call attention to that. Because I think, as we talk about, there can be a lot of resources and maybe a lot of ins for people that are just looking to talk cannabis or learn about it. If you're in the metro, it's easier to find and track down. And I think all of us, especially you, Molly, too, I know you've experienced it. Like, you just go out just a little bit and people feel so immediately disconnected, and they're like, tell us what you got, what's going on, what do I need to join, what's up there in the cities. Yes. And I think then the goal is to try and expand our network to make sure, like John said, connect the people that want to be connected, that feel so disconnected. We're hopefully trying to have a end of summer event that would just have vendors at a beautiful spot outdoors and bring in some entertainment and just a big collective fundraiser to kind of bring awareness and attention, B, support, and then C, money, so that we can continue to afford to put on education, keep the lights on the website, that type of thing. It's not really anything that anyone's looking, to buy a $500,000 house with. We just want to keep the engine kind of running. So we're trying to get those events going. Anyone that's interested in volunteering, anything you think you can add, whether it's even just an hour a month to write a Canva post. I mean, we'll take whatever experience anyone can bring. So it's just getting off the ground.
One suggestion I hope that people maybe tap into is, if there are these places in rural Minnesota that have shops, like hemp shops, or a farm, maybe they could host events, in those areas, and just kind of be like outposts for people, so that they don't feel like they have to like come to the cities to be involved with something, So please, audience in greater Minnesota, please reach out to this beautiful group. It's a great cause, and it is really intended to support a lot of well-intended people just trying to be well and use the medicine that works for them. So again, all of you, thank you so much for being here. I am honored and graced by your presence. And I appreciate your time, you guys.
Thank you so much for giving us the time. You do amazing work. Keep spreading out all your podcasts and just keep it going. You're doing amazing.
the more people can tell their story, like I said, the more it breaks down the stigma. People need to know that cannabis really does help, and it doesn't have to be this big, dark, scary thing that you do in your basement and you hide from your family and your friends.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
yeah. So,
100%.
yeah. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Molly. It was
you.
good to see you again.
Yes, you as
Bye.
well.
Good to see
Take
you.
care.